Welcome back to the Paranormal State, Washington, and UFO UAP. With Makāula Nakae, a lifelong experiencer and ET contactee since 1990. Today's episode, 1947 Shadow Archive, Investigations into the Unknown. Secret military and intelligence investigations into the unknown. The pursuit of unidentified anomalous phenomena, UAP, has not been a single unified effort, but a series of fragmented, often contradictory projects spanning nearly 80 years. While many have been relegated to the realm of myth, several government and military initiatives were and are very real. The Investigative Foundations, 1947 to 1969. These projects represent the era of military administrative management, where the government attempted to navigate public panic while maintaining national security control. Project Sign, 1947. The initial, highly proactive Air Force inquiry that culminated in the estimate of the situation, the first intelligence report to officially suggest that UAP might be interplanetary. Project Grudge, 1949, a strategic reversal of the sign mandate. Grudge was designed to rationalize, debunk, or otherwise minimize the significance of incoming UAP reports to pacify the public and protect military secrets. Project Blue Book, 1952 to 1969, Sad Face, the longest-running public-facing Air Force study. While it sought professional rigor under Captain Edward J. Ruppelt, it ultimately functioned as an institutional filter to prevent serious scientific inquiry into the truly unknown cases. Scientific and Intelligence Frontier Programs, 1970 to 2017. As the focus shifted from what is it to how does it work, agencies began exploring unconventional science and the potential for psychological or technological exploitation. Project Stargate, 1972 to 1995, Sad Face, a multi-agency effort. CIA, DIA, Army to investigate remote viewing and other psychic phenomena as an intelligence gathering tool. It remains the government's most significant deep dive into the role of consciousness in gathering anomalous data. AAWSAP 2007 to 2017 Sad Face, initiated by the Defense Intelligence Agency. This project expanded the investigation of UAP into the realm of the paranormal. It included studies of physical sites such as Skinwalker Ranch to determine if UAP presence produced measurable, often debilitating effects on human observers. 3. International and Allied perspectives. The investigation into UAP was not a strictly American endeavor. Global military and transport agencies recognized the phenomenon's persistence. Project Magnet, Canada, 1950 to 1954, Sad Face, a rare, genuinely scientific program that sought to investigate the relationship between geomagnetism and the propulsion systems of unidentified craft. Project Condign, UK, 1997 to 2000, Sad Face, a sophisticated mode study that reached the conclusion that UAP were an indisputable physical reality. It famously hypothesized the existence of buoyant plasma formations, suggesting these could be the source of both the physical objects and the hallucinations reported by witnesses. The Contemporary Transparency Initiative 2026 to present. We have moved out of the era of secret, compartmentalized studies and into a mandate of systematic disclosure. Pursue Presidential Unsealing and Reporting System for UAP Encounters. Launched in February 2026, this system represents the current gold standard of UAP transparency. It functions not as a closed study, but as an open-source gateway for all historical and current UAP data, actively declassifying records from across the intelligence community and the Department of Defense. The reality of the secret landscape. When researching these programs, it is critical to distinguish between the nature of their missions. The investigative units, Sign, Blue Book, Pursue, focus on data collection, classification, and public management. The scientific intelligence units, AAWSAP, Magnet, Condign, focus on engineering, propulsion, and physics-based threat assessment. The consciousness studies, Stargate, focus on the observer, the witness, and the potential for human mental interface with the anomaly. The history of these projects is not a history of a single, monolithic truth being hidden by a single committee. Instead, it is the history of a civilization trying to map a phenomenon that refuses to fit into the conventional boundaries of science, intelligence, or physics. When looking for secret military programs, the distinction usually lies between The historical investigative units, sign, grudge, blue book, administrative, and public-facing. The Scientific Intelligence Studies AAWSAP, AATIP, Project Magnet, Project Condign, often focused on physical characteristics, propulsion, or potential national security threats. The Consciousness Studies, Project Stargate, focused on the human interface with the phenomenon remote viewing. While conspiracy theories often invent secret projects like Project Serpo or Project Silver Bug, the programs listed above are the confirmed, historically significant initiatives that defined how governments have navigated the tension between national security, scientific inquiry, and public disclosure. For nearly 80 years, humanity's relationship with unidentified anomalous phenomena has resembled a chronic, poorly managed workplace safety hazard. Instead of a single, well-oiled committee of men in black quietly cataloging flying saucers over coffee and donuts, we got a sprawling, bureaucratic soap opera. Governments have spent decades tripping over their own shoelaces, frantically trying to stuff interdimensional shapeshifters into standard Pentagon filing cabinets, while insisting that everything is entirely under control. When the modern UFO era kicked off, the military didn't react with scientific awe. They reacted like an exhausted parent whose toddler just found a chainsaw. Early military inquiries actually had moments of raw, uncharacteristic bravery, drafting top-secret intelligence estimates suggesting the objects might be interplanetary. But the brass took one look at that conclusion, panicked, and reportedly ordered the copies burned. If ignorance is bliss, the military was well on its way to total enlightenment. When covering up the unknown proved too exhausting, the strategy pivoted to energetic dismissal. Bureaucrats set up official clearinghouses, whose primary job description was basically to tell the public that what they saw was just a very confused cloud and atmospheric inversion, or Venus having a particularly bright night. They treated the citizenry like delicate porcelain that might shatter if told reality was weirder than a weather balloon. While analysts valiantly tried to bring professional rigor to the chaos, these public-facing projects often devolved into institutional garbage disposals, convenient filing cabinets where every baffling, match 4 thermal anomaly was neatly labeled as a misidentified owl or swamp gas. Eventually, the brass realized that ignoring the problem wasn't making it go away. As the focus shifted from what is that light in the sky to how does it break every known law of physics, the intelligence community stopped asking for radar scopes and started hiring psychics. Convinced that foreign powers were weaponizing extrasensory perception, agencies threw millions at remote viewing, trying to see if human consciousness could wander across space and time to spy on secret bases. The catch? Trying to get a psychic to reliably describe a hostile installation was about as consistent as predicting tomorrow's lottery numbers using a magic 8-ball. But it proved a vital, unsettling point. The government knew the observer was just as important as the object. Later efforts dragged research out of the Dark Ages, investigating whether these craft were leaving human observers with radiation burns, neurological trauma, and a lingering suspicion that reality was rigged. Meanwhile, our international allies weren't handling it any better. Foreign defense ministries launched serious scientific studies, only to conclude that while anomalous craft were an indisputable physical reality, they could probably be explained away as buoyant plasma formations, essentially deciding that glowing hypersonic death disks were just spicy weather. Today, we have mercifully traded the era of locked filing cabinets for transparency initiatives, opening up decades of classified skeletons so everyone can finally look at the data. Ultimately, government UAP files aren't just a list of secret initiatives. They are a monument to human stubbornness. From military bureaucrats trying to stamp weather balloon on interdimensional physics, to remote viewers trying to mentally spy on the Kremlin, leaders have spent nearly a century trying to fit a cosmic square peg into a terrestrial round hole. And the best part, the peg is still floating circles around them. For decades, public discourse on unidentified anomalous phenomena, UAP has resembled a multi-act tragicomedy performed entirely behind a thick velvet curtain. Governments have transitioned from dismissing flying saucers as mass hysteria to dutifully opening up massive declassified digital archives. Yet, as we comb through these transparency initiatives, a glaring disconnect remains. while the historical paper trail of lights in the sky and bewildered radar operators is finally seeing daylight, the crown jewels of the alleged mystery, intact non-human craft and river-engineered hardware, remain securely locked in the dark. So where are we heading? Are we marching toward total disclosure? Or are we simply shuffling papers while the real operation continues in the absolute shadows? The current trajectory of transparency can best be described as a controlled burn. Executive directives and systemic database launches have successfully liberated thousands of historical military reports, pilot transcripts, and decades-old project memos. The bureaucratic machinery has conceded that UAPs are real, persistent, and physically unexplained. However, a chasm separates a declassified memo about an optical anomaly over a military range from a recovered, non-human craft sitting in a basement laboratory. While historical files are slowly being unsealed, the physical artifacts, if they exist, are protected by layers of classification so deep they make standard national security protocols look like an open-source library. This brings us to the ultimate question. Are we heading toward the disclosure of reverse-engineered technology? The answer depends entirely on who you ask in Washington. On one hand, legislative efforts like the bipartisan UAP Disclosure Act, UAPDA, have aggressively pushed for mechanisms, including eminent domain provisions, to unearth alleged hidden programs and materials. On the other hand, official institutional bodies maintain that exhaustive searches of federal archives have turned up zero verifiable evidence of off-world craft or river engineering initiatives. The congressional battlefield, asking the forbidden question. To understand if we are heading toward a breakthrough, one only has to look at recent high-profile congressional oversight hearings. Lawmakers have stopped treating the topic as late-night fodder and have begun pressing witnesses directly on the existence of hidden technology programs. During these hearings, military whistleblowers, former intelligence officials, and investigative journalists have openly testified about alleged legacy programs tasked with retrieving and attempting to back-engineer materials of unknown origin. Lawmakers have repeatedly asked the hard questions. Where are the craft? Who holds the contracts? What compartmentalized black budgets are funding these initiatives? Yet, a congressional hearing is a game of high-stakes chess. While brave voices testify under oath about clandestine river engineering efforts, institutional pushback remains formidable. Witnesses are routinely blocked by classification walls or told that specific details can only be shared in secure, closed-door sensitive compartmented information facilities, SIFTs. Congress has successfully dragged the conversation into the light, but forcing open the vault doors where anomalous hardware allegedly rests is an entirely different battle. If official bodies claim nothing is there, yet whistleblowers insist legacy programs are buried deep within private aerospace contractors, away from traditional military oversight, what is the reality? History suggests that if advanced, anomalous technology has been recovered, it wouldn't be handled by standard military branches, subject to regular congressional audits. It would be sequestered within deeply compartmentalized special access programs, SAP, shielded by corporate non-disclosure agreements and national security exemptions. In such a scenario, public-facing transparency initiatives can happily declassify thousands of pages of pilot signings, while the crown jewels remain untouched, operating in a perpetual blind spot outside the reach of public accountability. Where are we heading? We are hurtling toward a fascinating, highly volatile collision between bureaucratic containment and absolute curiosity. The era of flatly denying the UFO phenomenon is over. The files are out, the stigma is lifting, and public demand for transparency is higher than it has ever been. But until Congress or executive oversight successfully pierces the impenetrable veil of private sector compartmentalization, where river-engineered technology allegedly hides, we will remain in a strange purgatory. We are heading toward a future where the government admits the phenomenon is real, yet insists the mechanics behind it remain just out of reach. Whether that final barrier is eventually smashed open by legislative persistence or forced wide by the sheer, unyielding weirdness of the phenomenon itself remains the ultimate question of our time. To be continued. Watch and listen. Watch the cinematic video trailer. Listen to the full podcast now. Explore the archived Cosmic Awakening Volume 1, 1991, Peru, Journey into the Unknown. Sacred Valley of the Incas. Volume 2, Ascension 2012, The Golden Alchemy. Part 3, The First Contact and the Paranormal State. Join the journey. New episodes drop periodically. Each chapter delivers a tight, hyper-focused 10 to 30-minute exploration into the evolution of ufology, perfect for your daily plunge into decoding hidden messages from outer space, designed to raise awareness and foster human evolution. Subscribe to support your inner development. Thumbs up to help push our channel through the algorithm. Comment below. Share your thoughts on today's episode.